The rain had been relentless since morning. Dark clouds hovered over the city like heavy memories refusing to fade. For Anna Carter, this was supposed to be her big day, the day she'd finally escape years of struggle and heartbreak. She had an interview at Harper & Miles Enterprises, one of the most prestigious companies in the city. After months of job rejections and sleepless nights, this was her last hope. But as fate would have it, the storm had other plans. Anna's old car sputtered halfway through her journey, coughing one last time before dying on a lonely, muddy road. She stepped out in her modest gray suit, clutching her resume folder, and realized the ground beneath her was pure sludge. There were no taxis, no buses, not even a soul in sight. Just mud, rain, and desperation. For a moment, she wanted to give up. She thought about turning back, going home, and crying into her pillow like she had so many times before. But then she remembered her mother's voice, soft yet firm. "You can't quit when life gets dirty. Anna, that's when you fight harder." So, she took off her heels, rolled up her pants, and started walking barefoot toward the main road. Each step splashed filth across her legs and clothes. By the time she found a bus, her outfit, once neatly ironed, was now a muddy mess. Still, she pressed on, clutching that resume as if it held her entire future, because it did. When Anna finally reached the glass building of Harper & Miles, people in elegant suits stared at her as if she were from another world. Her hair was soaked, her face streaked with rain and mud. The receptionist's eyes widened in disbelief. "Ma'am, are you here for an interview?" she asked hesitantly. Anna nodded, trying to straighten her muddy blazer. "Yes, 10 o'clock. Anna Carter, for the marketing associate position." The receptionist looked unsure but called upstairs anyway. Anna could feel the eyes on her, whispers, giggles, pity. But she stood tall, though her shoes squished water and her hands trembled. She had nothing left to lose. Moments later, the elevator doors opened and a tall man in a crisp navy suit stepped out. His expression unreadable, but his eyes sharp, like he could see right through her. It was Mr. Daniel Harper, the CEO himself. The room went silent. Everyone expected him to ask her to leave, maybe even call security. After all, who walks into a corporate interview covered in mud? But Daniel did something no one expected. He smiled, and then he said softly, "Miss Carter, you made it through a storm, literally. That already tells me something about your character. Come with me." Gasps rippled through the lobby as he gestured for her to follow him into his private office. Anna hesitated, stunned, then followed him, her wet shoes squeaking on the marble floor. Inside, he offered her a towel and a cup of hot coffee. "Let's talk," he said warmly. "You've already impressed me. Now let's see if your ideas can do the same." Anna couldn't believe what was happening. She sat there, trembling and speechless, her heart pounding louder than the thunder outside. She was about to face the most unexpected interview of her life, one that would change everything she thought she knew about success, kindness, and second chances. But what Daniel said next left her completely speechless. Anna sat in the CEO's sleek office, her damp clothes sticking to her skin, trying not to notice the water dripping from her hair onto the luxurious carpet. The smell of fresh coffee filled the air, mingling with the faint scent of rain from her soaked clothes. Daniel Harper, the CEO, sat across from her, calm and observant. His expensive watch gleamed, but his eyes held something different: empathy. "Rough morning, huh?" he said, breaking the silence with a half-smile. Anna tried to laugh, but it came out shaky. "You could say that. My car broke down and, well, the mud happened." Daniel chuckled softly. "Most people would have turned around, but you didn't." "I couldn't," Anna replied, her voice trembling between exhaustion and determination. "I needed this job." There was no arrogance in her tone, just raw honesty, and that caught Daniel's attention more than any polished resume ever could. He leaned forward, resting his elbows on the desk. "Tell me something, Anna. Why do you want to work here?" She hesitated, then spoke from her heart. "Because I believe in what your company stands for, creating campaigns that make people feel something real. I've always wanted to tell stories that matter, stories that connect hearts. But," she glanced down at her mud-stained hands, "life hasn't exactly given me the best start." Daniel nodded slowly. "Sometimes the people with the hardest beginnings create the most powerful stories. Something in his voice softened her fear. It wasn't the voice of a strict executive. It was the voice of someone who understood struggle. He asked her more questions, not about degrees or experience, but about life, passion, and perspective. She spoke about working night shifts to pay her tuition, about losing her father young, about helping her mother run a small grocery store when bills piled up. Every word she spoke wasn't rehearsed. It was real. After half an hour, Daniel leaned back and smiled. You know, when you walked in, the entire lobby thought I'd throw you out. I thought so too, Anna admitted with a small laugh. Honestly, I almost didn't come up. But you did, Daniel said simply. And that's what sets you apart. Just then, there was a knock on the door. His assistant, a woman in her 40s, peeked in. Sir, the board meeting starts in 10. Daniel nodded. I'll be right there. Then turning back to Anna, he said, Wait here for a moment, please. Anna's stomach twisted. Was that it? Had she ruined her only chance because of the way she looked? As Daniel left the room, she stared out the window, watching rain slide down the glass. The city looked so distant, like a dream she could never quite touch. She thought about her mother waiting back home, praying for her success. She whispered under her breath, Please, let this be the one. Minutes turned into what felt like hours before the door opened again. Daniel returned, holding a folder and a faint smile. He handed her a small towel and said, Here, I had this brought up for you. Thank you, she said, dabbing her face. I have to be honest, Daniel continued, sitting down again. You're not the typical candidate we see here. But maybe that's exactly what we need. Anna blinked, confused. I'm sorry? I'm not making any promises yet, he said, his tone calm but firm. But I see something rare in you, Anna. You don't just talk about perseverance when you live it. I'd like to see what you can really do. Her heart skipped a beat. Does that mean? It means, he said with a small smile, you're not done yet. Come back tomorrow at 9. Bring your ideas for a mock campaign. Anything that tells a story about resilience. No rules, no limits. Anna's lips parted in shock. Tomorrow? After this? Daniel chuckled. If you can survive a storm like today and still walk in here, I'm sure you'll survive one more day. For the first time that day, she smiled. A real, grateful smile. Thank you, Mr. Harper. I won't disappoint you. As she left the office, still damp but filled with renewed hope, she didn't notice the curious stares anymore. All she could think of was that tomorrow she'd have one more chance, not just to get a job, but to prove that perseverance can outshine perfection. What Anna didn't know, though, was that Daniel Harper had his own story, one that made him see a reflection of his past self in that mud-stained young woman. And what he was about to do next would shock everyone at the company. The next morning, sunlight poured through the city skyline, glinting off the tall glass of Harper & Miles Enterprises. Inside, the usually calm offices buzzed with whispers. Employees were still talking about the girl who walked into the CEO's office covered in mud, and somehow didn't get thrown out. Anna arrived early, wearing her only clean white blouse and a simple navy skirt. She had stayed up all night sketching campaign ideas on scraps of paper, fueled by instant coffee and hope. She wasn't just coming for a job anymore. She was coming to prove that kindness and effort still mattered. When she reached the receptionist's desk, the same woman who had looked at her strangely yesterday smiled this time. Mr. Harper's expecting you. Conference room 3. Anna nodded nervously and walked down the hall. Her heart pounded as she entered the large, bright room. On the table lay her name tag, a notepad, and a laptop. But what caught her off guard was Daniel Harper, already there, standing by the window, staring out over the city like a man deep in thought. Good morning, Miss Carter, he said without turning. Sleep well after yesterday's adventure? Anna chuckled softly. Barely. But I'm ready. He turned, smiling. Good, let's see what you've got. She took a deep breath and began. Her idea wasn't fancy, it was real. A campaign about resilience, showing everyday people who kept going despite life's storms. Farmers, single parents, street cleaners, all heroes in their own quiet way. Her voice shook at first, but as she spoke, her confidence grew. Daniel listened silently, his eyes never leaving her. When she finished, the room was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he said, You remind me of someone I once knew. Anna tilted her head. Who? He sat down across from her, his expression thoughtful. Me. She blinked in surprise. I wasn't always a CEO, Daniel said, leaning back. I grew up in a small town. My mother cleaned offices at night while my father struggled with debt. I know what it's like to walk into a room where everyone thinks you don't belong. Anna's throat tightened. She hadn't expected this. I built this company to prove something, Daniel continued, his gaze distant. But somewhere along the way, I realized success isn't just about numbers. It's about giving people chances, the same way someone once gave me one. Anna felt her heart swell. She'd never imagined that behind the sharp suits and calm demeanor, the CEO carried such a humble story. He smiled faintly. Yesterday, when I saw you walk in covered in mud, I saw someone who refused to quit. That was me, years ago, walking into an interview with torn shoes and no degree. But someone believed in me. The room was silent except for the faint hum of the air conditioner. Miss Carter, Daniel said gently, you've got something this company needs. Heart. I want you on my creative team. But, he raised a brow. You'll have to prove that yesterday's courage wasn't a one-time thing. Anna gasped. You mean, I'm hired? Daniel chuckled. Let's just say you're on trial. But if you keep showing up like this and no storm, no mud, no excuses, and I'll make it official. Her eyes filled with tears. Thank you, Mr. Harper. You won't regret this. I already don't, he replied, smiling. Now go get some breakfast before the team briefing. You've earned it. As she stepped out of the room, her heart light as air, she caught a few curious stares from passing employees. Whispers followed her again, but this time, they sounded different, admiring. Back in his office, Daniel watched her go. His assistant entered quietly. Sir, was it wise to take her in? The board might not like... Daniel interrupted gently, still staring at the door Anna had just walked through. The board has forgotten what it means to start with nothing. I haven't. His assistant hesitated, then nodded and left. Daniel leaned back, a faint smile tugging at his lips. He opened his drawer and pulled out an old, faded photograph of a young man in muddy shoes shaking hands with his first employer. The man in the photo looked determined, desperate, and grateful. Daniel whispered to himself, someone once took a chance on me when I looked just like her, and at that moment, he silently promised he'd make sure Harper and Miles would always be a place where second chances weren't just given, they were honored. But little did either of them know, not everyone in the company was happy about Daniel's decision, and soon, jealousy and ambition would put Anna's newfound hope to the ultimate test. The following week at Harper and Miles Enterprises felt like stepping into a dream. Anna now had a desk, a badge with her name on it, and a place among the creative team. Every morning she'd walk through the grand glass doors, no longer the mud girl, but a young woman with a purpose. Still, whispers followed her like faint echoes. She's the one the CEO brought in himself. Did you hear? She came to the interview covered in mud. There's no way she earned this. He must pity her. Anna tried to ignore them. She focused on her work, pouring her heart into every project. When others designed perfect graphics, she wrote words that felt. Her campaigns weren't just clever, they were human. But not everyone appreciated that. Among her team was Carla Benson, the senior strategist, sharp, elegant, and ambitious. Carla had worked there for 5 years, always hoping to catch Daniel Harper's eye with her flawless presentations and confidence. When Anna arrived, messy past and all, and Daniel personally praised her ideas in a meeting, Carla's pride began to crack. Interesting campaign. Anna, Carla said one afternoon, leaning over her desk with a too-sweet smile. But next time, try to be more realistic. This isn't a charity. It's business. Anna smiled politely. I understand, but I think people connect with honesty. Real stories matter. Carla's smile faded. We'll see how far that gets you. Despite the tension, Daniel noticed Anna's quiet determination. During meetings, he'd often ask her opinion, making others glance her way with mixed envy and curiosity. One Friday morning, Daniel announced something that set the whole office buzzing. Our next major campaign will focus on human resilience. I want it to represent the heart of who we are as a company, and he paused, glancing at Anna. I'd like Miss Carter to lead the creative direction. The room went silent. Carla's eyes widened, her knuckles tightening around her pen. Me? Anna whispered. Sir, are you sure? I'm still new. Daniel smiled. That's exactly why. Fresh eyes. Real perspective. Applause filled the room, but Anna could feel Carla's cold gaze burning into her back. After the meeting, Carla cornered her in the hallway. Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts, sweetheart, she whispered. You'll learn soon enough. This place isn't as kind as you think. That night, Anna stayed late, sketching ideas in the quiet office. She imagined ads showing ordinary people overcoming storms, much like she had. She wanted her first campaign to mean something, not just for the company, but for everyone who'd ever been told they weren't enough. While she worked, Daniel passed by her desk and paused. You're still here? She smiled shyly. I wanted to make it perfect. He nodded approvingly. That's what I like about you, Anna. You care. Thank you, sir, she said softly. I just don't want to let you down. He looked at her for a long moment, then said, You couldn't if you tried. When he left, Anna sat there for a while, overwhelmed with gratitude. For the first time in years, she felt seen, not for how she looked, but for who she was. But as she packed her things to leave, she didn't notice Carla standing near the door, watching. Later that night, Carla walked into Daniel's office while the floor was empty. Her lips curled into a calculating smile as she opened her laptop. Within minutes, she copied Anna's campaign drafts onto a company server labeled under her own folder. Then she adjusted a few words, polished the design, and saved it. The next morning, when Daniel gathered the team to review their proposals, he turned on the projector and saw Carla's presentation. It was Anna's idea. Her concept, her words. Daniel frowned. This seems familiar. Carla smiled smoothly. I've been working on this concept for a while now. I think it represents our brand perfectly. Anna's heart stopped. She opened her mouth to speak but froze under everyone's eyes. Daniel's gaze shifted between them. Something in his expression darkened, but he said nothing. Not yet. As the meeting ended, Anna sat there in silence, betrayal stinging like cold rain all over again. She'd faced storms before, but this one cut deeper than any thundercloud. Outside the glass windows, it began to rain again, softly, steadily, as if the world knew another storm was coming. The rain outside had turned the city silver, glistening against the office windows. Inside, Anna sat frozen at her desk, staring blankly at her screen. Her campaign, the one she had poured her soul into, was gone. Stolen. Carla's confident smile still echoed in her mind. The way everyone had applauded, believing the idea was hers. The humiliation burned deep, but even deeper was the ache of disappointment, not in others, but in herself for staying silent. As she packed her things to leave that evening, Daniel's voice came from behind her. Miss Carter. She turned, startled. His expression was unreadable. I need you in my office, he said calmly. Her heart sank. She followed him quietly, every step heavier than the last. Inside, the air felt thick, the kind that comes before lightning strikes. Daniel gestured for her to sit. Anna, he began, I've reviewed both your work logs and the submission timestamps from last night. Her breath caught. He slid a folder across the desk. Inside were two versions of the same campaign, hers and Carla's, but one was clearly dated hours earlier. Did you think I wouldn't notice? He asked gently. Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't want to cause trouble. I thought maybe people would think I was lying. Daniel leaned forward, his voice steady but kind. Standing up for truth isn't trouble, Anna. It's strength. Before she could reply, a knock sounded. Carla entered confidently, holding a tablet. You wanted to see me, sir? Daniel's tone shifted, cold and precise. Yes, about your campaign submission. Carla smiled, feigning innocence. Of course. I hope you liked it. Daniel opened his laptop, projecting both versions onto the large screen. Funny thing, he said. These two look nearly identical, except for the timestamp and metadata. Care to explain that? Carla froze. I don't know what you mean. Maybe she— Enough, Daniel interrupted firmly. You may be good at presentations, Carla, but not at covering digital trails. Miss Carter's original file was uploaded to the internal drive 7 hours before yours. The room fell silent. The hum of the city outside was the only sound. Carla's confidence cracked. Sir, I just thought... You thought you could take what wasn't yours and no one would care because she's new, Daniel said sharply. That ends today. He stood, his calm replaced by quiet authority. Miss Benson, you're dismissed. Effective immediately. Carla's face went pale. She looked at Anna, bitterness twisting her expression, then stormed out. Daniel turned back to Anna. His tone softened again. You see, Anna, storms always reveal who stands firm. Anna's eyes filled with tears, this time not from pain but relief. I don't know how to thank you. He smiled faintly. Don't thank me. You earned this. Your heart, your courage. They're exactly what this company needs. He reached into a drawer and handed her an envelope. Inside was an official offer letter. Full-time position, creative lead. Anna covered her mouth, speechless. Mr. Harper, Daniel interrupted kindly. No more Mr. Harper, call me Daniel. And remember something. The world will always have people who judge your appearance, your past, your struggle. But those things don't define you. How you keep standing does. Outside, the rain stopped. Sunlight broke through the clouds, streaming across the office floor. Anna stood by the window, watching the light scatter over the city. A week ago, she had walked into this building covered in mud, embarrassed and hopeless. Now she was walking out, proud, strong, and shining. As Daniel watched her leave his office, he smiled to himself. Some storms, he whispered, don't come to destroy us. They come to wash us clean. And that was the day everyone at Harper & Miles learned that true professionalism isn't about suits, titles, or appearances. It's about character.